tuning in to the online broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Hey there, sleepyheads! Welcome back to the Sleepy Hollow After Show here on AfterBuzz TV, talking about Season 2, Episode 13. It's called Pittura Infamante. I am Matt Lieberman, back this week, and joining me as always, Jacque Borowski's here.
Holla.
And Zach Wilson's here.
Hey, guys.
Stephen Lemieux, unfortunately, out of town. There's someone close to him has passed recently. If you want, please send him some love on Twitter. Let him know that you miss him. We miss him dearly. He should be back next week. So this episode, I wasn't here to cover the last episode, and you guys did an amazing job. This episode was actually kind of solid, not really good, but there was nothing wrong with it.
No, here's my take on it. This episode I would say was very good, with one key exception.
Ooh.
I don't with the exception of the Katrina Ichabod relationship. This was a great episode.
Yes.
If not for that one plot line, great.
I wrote, because as I was watching the episode, the only thing I wrote was, cranes are boring.
That's legitimately what I was going to say after he was done.
Everything else is interesting, and you guys, we were totally on the same page. Everything else in this episode was totally interesting, except for them. You're like, they have sub-zero chemistry.
Yeah.
They have negative 120 degree Fahrenheit chemistry.
And it's so bonkers to me, because I feel like every time I watch this show, they're giving Katrina more to do, they're humanizing her a little more, they're making their relationship more complex, now they're giving her flashbacks, and I'm just sort of like, at what point will all this stuff ever amount to me caring whether or not they get back together and like each other and love each other?
You know what I think part of it is? When you're watching them, they don't have the kind of wicked banter that Abby and Ichabod have going forth, and there's none of that. It's just kind of it's like watching two people who have been. It is like watching two people who have been married for a long time, and they're just kind of putzing around their house and pouring tea and stuff. And no one wants to see that.
No,
Honestly, it's in the writing to me. It feels like they're playing it safe. This feels like they're protecting Ichabod, because the worst that's happening, she betrays him multiple times. She's potentially going over to Moloch's side, and she's softening on Moloch and his horsemen. And the worst that happens is they're I think we need some time apart to really think about ourselves.
Yeah.
Hurt Ichabod, because he can handle it. The actors here are good enough that they can handle it. Give them something intense to work with.
Well, the problem is and I don't want to say all broadcast shows are this soft with relationships, but being on broadcast, maybe the thought of whether or not to really take it somewhere drastic is scary, because it's largely, sadly, become a procedural this season. It feels very procedural. I apologize for one moment. Can you tell the folks outside to keep it down, please? It's just a little troublesome. Thank you.
What's interesting is a couple of fans sent me articles on Sleepy Hollow and what's wrong with it, and the creators of Sleepy Hollow are saying that, or not so much the creators, the showrunners are saying that, well, last season, or this show has become too serialized, so we need to make it lighter and more Monster of the Week. And you're like, no, that's what's wrong with it.
Too serialized?
Yeah.
There's no such thing as too serialized. The only show that I would call too serialized is maybe Lost, and Lost was great.
Yeah, because
most of the time.
Have faith that your audience is going to love your show enough to come back every week. Mm-hmm. Give them that faith. You should have to see every episode.
Yeah. We live in an age where binge watching is quickly becoming the norm.
It's easy to catch up if you miss a week, you could just watch both. Like,
Yeah, watch it on Hulu.
It's easy.
It's real easy.
It
Especially
really
when you
is.
take random weeks off like a week ago.
Oh, brother.
I don't know anybody aside, like, unless you're a sitcom, I don't know anybody who wants to jump into an hour drama production or an hour genre show and then not care that they haven't caught up. I don't know anybody. Tweet us and let us know.
The only one I could think of is maybe SVU, but even then, I feel like I have like this weird thing. I can't start that show because I feel like I don't know the people. I don't want to just jump in. I
Yeah.
want to know these characters.
But Law and Order is a different. Law and Order is like the definition of a procedural.
Yes.
Like it exists to be a procedural,
That's
and the
probably why I don't watch
serialized
it.
elements are there to like give you a little bit more to care about. But Sleepy Hollow
was never meant to be that.
was supposed to be a serialized show. It's about a war going on between like the like Purgatory and Earth, like the Witnesses and Moloch. That's not a procedural.
No, it's not. And let's jump into this like story of the week, which actually I liked a lot. The
I like
idea of this cursed
yeah,
painting.
I like that idea.
It felt very old school.
The
like
effects were awesome. Just awesome.
very well done. They built the suspense nicely. Look, their scenes together maybe weren't great, but I love the premise of, you know what? Mr. and Mrs. ICHABOD CRANE are going on their first date in 200 years. That, to me, regardless of how we feel about Katrina, that's a good idea. It's a good idea for an episode.
It is, but watching them together was so painfully boring. Even the scene where you see them like touch each other on their back, you're like, that even was boring. Where that should have been a moment, like if you had these two actors building up to this point, that should have been a moment of real electricity. And the thing is, it just lacks that. And then it seems such a weird void when you don't have Abby in the A storyline, because she kind of gives it that like spark.
Did you guys not like at all the moment where Abby drops the thing about Betsy Ross and then she comes in that knockout dress? That was great. And then like the moment between Katrina and Ichabod, that was a great moment between them. Where she's like, "What's that about Betsy Ross?" And he's like, dress."
Yeah, that was fun. And at that moment, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be a good episode. And then
I'm not really, I liked the fact that I don't think I'm really on you guys with the whole like, oh my gosh, she's wearing a modern dress, yay, woo. I was just like, oh, she got real slutty real fast.
Well, that's okay, but that's you judging. I'm sorry. Just because she wants to look nice and she's wearing the kind of dress that she could not wear back in the day does not mean she got real slutty. She is trying to win back over her husband, okay? You pull out all the stops and maybe take off your underwear.
Well, here's why I think their storyline felt weak, though, because I don't know if she is trying to win Ichabod back.
Interesting. Continue.
But I legitimately don't know where they are right now. Like we had that like little several months of like a jump, or was it weeks? Like whatever it was.
6 weeks.
6 weeks. We had 6 weeks of a jump forward, and they were like estranged and all that. But like last episode, I didn't really get the sense that they were like desperate to work it out. Like Ichabod maybe, but not so much.
That's because I feel that's the writing and the characters where you're like, I don't even think the writers care about these characters.
But that's what I mean. Like their relationship is just a little soft right now. Like it's not. They need to give them something extreme. Like either she needs to go full evil to where Ichabod has to deal with the fact that he loves this woman, but she is evil, or she has to like truly go back to him. But then he does like something more dynamic than, well, we love each other, but it feels a little weird.
Here's the thing. Audiences hate wheel spinning. And that's what a lot of this season has felt like.
Yeah.
In regards to Moloch, in regards to the relationship with Jeremy, which just never took off, failure to launch entirely, and especially Katrina, specifically because we know as an audience that it will not last.
Yes.
We can't invest in a relationship that we know is finite.
Yeah.
It's a key problem. So when we have all these episodes where they're trying to repair their relationship, we're going to be bored no matter what you feed us, simply because we know that there's no point in investing because they're going to break up anyway.
Yes.
So
Well said.
why not do it earlier? Why not do it during that mid-season finale? Why not do it last episode when he was reaming her out for, like, I haven't seen you in forever, and the first thing you do is manipulate me? Like, that would have been a perfect opportunity to be like, you know what? I love you, Katrina, but I can't do this anymore. Out. And then figure out an interesting way to have Abby, who doesn't trust Katrina, have her and Katrina mend fences without Ichabod involved. Find a way to make their chemistry interesting, because at this point, as producers, you should know that the Ikatrina chemistry is just a non-starter.
See, now that's an interesting storyline. If, like, Ichabod and Katrina are, like, just, they can't speak to each other. They're so mad at each other, they can't speak. But if we've spent enough time with the three of them together, that Abby and Katrina sort of have, like, a weird rapport. And so now Abby's
let's just be clear, they don't yet.
They don't. Yeah. But if they did, and so she has to, like, she needs both of them to solve whatever random craziness is going on.
Jackie, did you at least admit that last week Katrina's powers have reached, like, a new level of, I mean, ultimately doing nothing but very visual?
This week, actually, I mean, last week, I'm not sure what you're trying to say. You mean last week? She
did that whole seal of protection on the room, and she was thinking about removing the soul from
but it didn't really matter because she let Headless go.
Listener Techno Griffin thinks that Ichabod and Katrina will wind up together in the end. But I think the writers are going to drag it out.
That's going to kill the show. It's because if you have characters with no chemistry, and it's interesting because there have been shows where they realize these two actors are just not working, so we'll kill this character off. You have to suck it up and do that. You have to realize you cast two actors who just don't do it for the audience.
Yeah, but they like dressing her up in all them pretty clothes.
It's true. It's very pretty.
To be honest, you have a whole bunch of other very attractive women on the show that
I would like to see them all in that dress. Let's put them all in the dress. I'm not saying that that's the only one I want to see in the dress, but I like seeing someone in the dress.
Hollow ball where everyone's wearing a
purgatory
dress.
Prom.
A purgatory prom.
Eric Olin on Twitter says in response to you, Jackie, that he would not want to jump into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I think talking about jumping into a series that's serialized midstream.
Yes, that is most certainly one that you can't. And that's what's interesting with that, with Marvel in itself, is they've built a world where you have to know extra, like, outside things, which actually that gives a show longevity. Like Sleepy Hollow, the fact that they started doing comic books, you think that they would think that, okay, if we're trying to get people to invest in storylines outside of the show by doing a comic book storyline, that we would realize that this is a serialized
If we're
show.
Building an extended universe, obviously people want to live in it in a real way.
Yeah, but they didn't use the comics that way. They didn't use it in a true transmedia sense. They're just like extra stories. It's like a script that they just didn't use, kind of thing.
Boo!
Like, you have an opportunity there to, instead of just doing like another Ichabod Abbey adventure, give us
past. You can give us the past.
Give us Sheriff Corbin, like, in the past, doing some Sleepy Hollow detective work.
Give us a reason. Give us a reason to care about Holly. Give us Holly on a solo mission or a backstory that, like, informs his character, and we see his, like, broken home that he comes from.
You know what the perfect thing would have been? Give us Holly on the adventure where he found these platinum bullets.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to know what that was. That was probably a cool story.
Yes. Give us Holly the first time that he and Jenny met, and let's understand that romance a little bit and why we should give a crap.
But you know what? A lot of this could be addressed on the show.
I know, but they won't, because there's not time, because they're too busy. They're too busy trying to get us to care about this dumb marriage that no one likes. I feel like such a nerd. I feel like such a nerd. Look, if I was in the writer's room of Sleepy Hollow right now, I would be so mad at us for harping on this relationship. I would be so mad because they obviously care about the show. They're putting work into it. They want it to be the best thing that it can be. The decisions that are being made, they think they're the best decisions for the show, and we think that we know better. The problem is, in this one respect, we do.
Yeah, well, we're the audience. The audience are your customers. The customers know better than you because you have a wide audience that's tuning out to the show.
And we're an eager audience. We want the show. We want the show that we fell in love with.
The thing is, the effects on this show, watching this episode, there aren't, like, even with Grimm, there aren't a lot of TV effects where they're this cool.
Yes, I would agree.
I mean...
That hanged man, when they came in and saw it, was, like, so beautifully staged.
I mean, it was like Hannibal.
Yeah, and the painting, and, like, Ichabod being sucked into the painting and fighting his way out.
I love the changes to the painting. Like, when he turns around and has the creepy face in the painting.
Yeah, I loved it.
I mean, those moments, to me, those are really cool. And when they have them melding into the painting and coming out of the painting, I'm like, these are things that genre fans tune in for. We want to see the really super cool special effects. I did notice, though, that when the one guy who I guess is like the head curator or whatever, the gray-haired guy, I forgot his name, he gets stuck in the painting. Katrina was in that room, and then Ichabod comes in and he's like, oh no, he's stuck in the painting. But I'm like, Katrina, you were standing there. Why did you not say something?
Because she's busy having flashbacks of her best friend, Abigail Adams, played by Michelle Trachtenberg.
Okay.
Great to see her.
This is one of my Jacque asides. So the year is 1781 or 1782 that they're flashing back to. I think it's 1781. Abigail Adams in 1781 was in her late 30s. How old does Michelle Trachtenberg look to you? About 12. I'm sorry, but the whole time I'm watching this, I'm like, why is she 12? It was just one of those weird casting things.
I don't think she looks like she's 12. To me, she looked fine for the part, maybe a little on the young side.
It was one of those things where I mean, you should be happy if you have a young face because you'll be working for a long time. And it's like she might be almost 30, but she's still going to be playing. She still should be playing those teenage characters because as Abigail Adams for me, I was like, it read as a weird gossipy teenager. Especially when she was like chatting with Katrina about like, oh, your son's going to be a monster, which was an interesting foreshadowing.
Yeah.
I just felt, I was like, this just seems like oddly juvenile.
I'm just going to throw this out there. I would watch a Harriet the Spy reboot where now she's got a young spy who's like her daughter or cousin or something.
The only part that disappointed me about the whole Michelle Trachtenberg plotline was I thought she was going to stick around for a while. Like, just because she's a good actress, she's a well-known actress. I thought we were on the dawn of a new era of Sleepy Hollow. Here's what I hope with that scene is that in addition to like having her sticking around, we love the flashbacks, which have been sorely missing for the most part this season. We had the Weeping Lady, but
and Benjamin Franklin at the beginning of the season,
and Frankenstein. But for the most part, it's like there were so many. It felt like there were so many more flashbacks last season, and a lot of the reason we tune into the show is to see the flashbacks, to see how the past relates to the present. And Katrina still has that letter or whatever that was hidden in Abigail Adams' desk. I just hope that comes into play later, and it's not just going to be another one of their like weird throwaway things where they're like, oh, that was a one-shot episode and we didn't pay attention to that anymore, Frankenstein.
Bring back Frankenstein. Bring back Frankenstein, please.
I feel like I'm gonna have to put my own self in the pun jar, and you guys missed it, and I'm disappointed in the both of you.
Go ahead.
Because I made a Dawn joke about Michelle Trachtenberg.
Let's just call it $40. Can we call it $40?
No, we're not that high yet. We were at $37 after the end of last episode.
Sorry, I got ahead of myself.
We're $37.50 now.
Yeah.
Buffy.
Dawn was the worst character.
Before we move on, folks, I got to do the thing that we do here. Don't you dare skip ahead because it's entertaining as well as informative. You know, folks, the best way that you can support AfterBuzz TV is to go to iTunes, rate and review the show that you listen to or that you watch on YouTube. It is quick, it is easy, and it helps us out so much. We here at AfterBuzz TV put out over 80 hours of free after show content a week. It is the widest array of television after show content on any platform anywhere in the world. That is a true fact, one that I will stand behind till the end of time. We're really proud of it. It's a big undertaking. We are working all the time to give you the best possible after show content that we possibly can. And your reviews on iTunes, your ratings on iTunes, help us get the sponsors that keep our doors open and our lights on. It's how people find us and trust that our content is worth investing in. And I don't know if you guys read these reviews last week, but I'm going to read them anyway. I'm going to give some shout outs. Leslie A90, best discovery ever. 5 stars. What?
No, guys, I'm looking at the ratings.
And we have...
Do you know what number we hit?
Yes, we have 200 ratings. 200 ratings on iTunes, and if I'm not mistaken, like a 5-star average.
Yeah, we have
Yes.
185
Yes.
5-star reviews. That's pretty
Thank you,
impressive.
guys. That's wonderful.
Keep them coming. You get a shout out here on the show. Leslie A90 writes, during this hiatus, I had been suffering from Sleepy Hollow withdrawal, and because of this, I stumbled across your show, and I'm now in love with it. Your team is very enthusiastic and passionate. Your theories and insights are well developed, and I love having you all to geek out with now over my favorite TV shows. I look forward to listening to this show and your thoughts / tweets on its development. And great hosts and posts from Court0624, 5 stars. I love listening to your show. I love the whole AfterBuzz TV setup. Keep up the good work. Do I get a shout out now?
Yes, you do.
All right.
Born Guy says that Matt is really the best at doing the iTunes thing. He is the only one who can make it sound interesting.
Oh,
I
just saw someone write Willow would kick Katrina's butt. Yes, that's
yeah,
true.
she could.
Yes,
she could
that's
kick
true.
her.
You can make
friggin' behind.
You can make witches seem interesting. I think the one choice, I don't know if it's a choice or if it's that actress's voice, but Katia Winter always speaks in this like bizarre stage whisper.
Chirpy, like it's
It's like everything is an aside.
a pack of tarot cards.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Where did you ever find tarot cards? Why
so
did you ever
weird.
find tarot cards? After someone left them in our parlor. And I was like, oh! That was my favorite part of the two of them together. Was just sort of like, look, if you didn't want me going through your witch stuff, maybe you don't leave it lying around.
And that stuff is fun. We need, like, if they're gonna be together, we need to see more of that.
A relationship fun, please.
Like, it either has to be fun or destructive. Anything in the
Yes.
middle is boring.
Yeah, because it's boring. I mean, the reason that people respond to the Ichabod Abbey pairing is that it's fun. They have this kind of like witty banter. They're from different worlds.
And yet they're pulled together. Somehow, inextricably. Oh.
I do love the asides that Abby was making in this whole episode, basically rolling her eyes at Katrina. She's been rolling, like, her eyes should have rolled out of her head by now because poor Nicole Beharie has to play this. Like, I still can't believe they're trying this line.
Well, she's like basically playing second fiddle to this wispy British Willow, and she is not Willow. Do you know what I mean? A wispy British Willow, like the actual like willow that moves in the breeze.
Well, I mean, and they've let her play second fiddle to the A story, too. It's like she has to come, like, she, a couple times now, has come in at the end of the episode and just saved the Cranes.
Yeah.
And it's like, the Save the Cranes storyline, it's getting old.
She can
Tell me
just
the
be
truth.
there.
Who's first in the opening credits? Is it Tom Mison or Nicole Beharie?
I don't know.
I think it's Nicole Beharie. That's what
do some quick
I
investigation.
mean, it might be Tom Mison.
She was
but,
a film actress first.
right,
so
but here's the thing. It's just like...
she had more credits
she's-
than anyone else on the show.
She's the star of the show. She's the main character. She's the audience. We introduce the show with her. She is the audience. So she should be in front and center the whole time. She's also the best actor on the show. Like, as
true.
much as I love Tom Mison, she is the best actor
Yeah.
on the show.
That's true.
Let's give her some stuff to do. Now, having said that, she does get some stuff to do this episode in the return of one Mr. Frank Irving.
This is an interesting plot line too, because the first thing I was worried about was that when they were saying that no one knows that he's dead except for like Ichabod, Katrina, etc. I was like, did they not tell his family? And then she mentions later on that they told the family, but I'm like, wouldn't the family put out like some sort of obituary because he was an officer or he was
he was also an escaped cop killer, and he died in a supernatural thing. There's no way to prove that he's dead. There's no body. There's like a lot of things around that. And also, from the discussion she had with Cynthia, it seems like she also explained everything regarding the supernatural stuff to her, so she understands why.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I get your point.
Yeah, I am glad they brought Cynthia in, because this whole time, you know, you feel like, okay, well, what happens to his family now?
Macy grows up without a father.
But this is the most interesting line. They're trying to bring him in like Andy.
Yeah.
Zombie Andy.
Yeah, well, what I love most about it is it really is a stark internal conflict for Abby and for Jenny, really more for Abby, of just like, I want to trust you, but I can't.
Right.
I cannot think of any good reason why you're back right now, and I'm suspicious, and I'm sorry, but I can't trust you.
I do like that stuff between Abby and Jenny in this episode. They work really well as sisters. When you're an audience member and you're watching it, you're like, these two are so funny together.
Yeah, how about these two getting a story together maybe more than once a season? Huh? Mark Goffman?
I loved it when she's on the phone with her and she's like digging through the body. I was like, this is priceless. And Jenny, she was digging, she should have known to bring gloves. I mean, it was so gross. I was like, why doesn't she have gloves?
At the very least, like a pair of gardening gloves.
Yeah,
some
something.
basic.
Right. And you always leave one magic bullet in the zombie. Always leave one.
I mean, you figure it's dead. I mean, it's got shot with the parts of the gates of hell.
Yeah, but a zombie was already dead before you shot it.
I like how Abby says, is there any way we can corroborate the fact that it's from the gates of hell?
Yeah.
See, this is great banter, and this is part of why I liked the episode. Like, despite the fact that Abby and Ichabod got separated for the bulk of the episode.
Again.
But, like, Abby's off doing, like, some good detective work. Like, she's doing her thing. She's dealing with Frank Irving being back and, like, potentially really bad. And, like, is this really him? Is it really him? Does he have a soul? Like, if Henry is good now? Does killing Alec make him good? Like,
I hope that comes into play, because it's like, it's very iffy as to like what's happening with Frank's soul, and they just kind of let Henry go off and nobody cared.
Well, Henry died, right? Henry died. When you use that sword, it takes your soul.
But Moloch had his soul, no?
Yeah. I thought he was
John
like
Noble,
supernatural.
John Noble is still in the opening credits. I thought from that finale that he must be done for, but apparently that's not the case. Apparently, I guess we'll see him again at some point. What are the folks in the chat saying?
Well, they're clearing up. Tom Mison does have first billing.
Okay, well, well, shoot.
Because he's a boy.
Yeah.
And Jolly
Okay.
says where'd it go?
Abby has to be the one in control.
Yeah, I actually was reading the wrong comment. Born guy said Jenny doesn't need gloves. She's too badass for gloves.
You're absolutely right.
That's a good explanation. Right. I like that.
And they want to see Thaddeus J. Spider as a bad guy on Amy Gonzalez wants Thaddeus J. Spider.
Okay. Yeah, well.
Didn't we have a big spider at some point? Am I just grafting my memories of Harry Potter?
Yeah, I don't think we've had a big spider yet. I don't think we've had a spider villain.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd watch it. I'd ship it. Yeah.
Who are you shipping it with?
Oh, I just say that a lot now. I just think it's funny. Yeah.
It's weird.
No, what I like most...
Katrina.
Yeah. Well, Frank and Jenny, I want them together, right? I want them together so bad. And I was really excited at Jenny's reaction to Frank being alive.
Yes.
I loved the moment that they had where she saw him and she looked into his heart and she knew that there was nothing bad that he could possibly do. And I think she's going to go against Abby.
Yeah.
She's going to go against her and all of her stern warnings and free Frank. She's going to free him, and she's going to discover that he actually does have a dark heart.
Well, the thing is, he might be exonerated. I mean, there was DA
some kind of evidence.
And see, then part of me has the same reaction that Abby does, where you're like, is it evil evidence? Like evidence that like
It seems pretty convenient.
the bad guy's planted?
I mean, who do we know that has some lawyer background that might have some that is technically his lawyer and could exonerate
That's
him?
true.
Who? Who are you talking about?
You know,
Who are you talking about?
Henry.
Oh, Henry. Yeah, that is who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Henry.
maybe-
Jeremy.
I mean, that's a great that'd be a surprising way to bring him back in. They like go to court, like he's gonna have a trial, and then the lawyer walks in, and it's just Henry. He's just there, and they're like, "What?"
That's
and then
true.
the B storyline can be Katrina gets to re-raise Henry.
Oh, God. It just, like, I'm not against liberating Abraham's soul from the Headless Horseman. I'm not against it. Because then he and Katrina can just go off and be together.
They have good chemistry.
They have great chemistry.
Yes.
And they can just come back twice a year. And that's fine. Let them be like our vacation friends.
Let them be our big bads.
Vacation.
Ooh, you want evil Katrina.
I think that's a
I think
great
that would work.
storyline. Like a husband and wife on two sides of a war between evil
Yes.
and good. That's crazy good.
Yes, that's really good.
And
rich.
and they have good then you have two sets of people with good chemistry going to war with each other.
Yes.
That's a show I
It
want to
makes
watch.
sense.
Yeah, I want to watch that too. Can I ask you what is going on with the apocalypse now that Moloch is gone? Moloch's not dead, right? I mean, that's impossible, isn't it?
Maybe he's just reborn as a baby in purgatory, and he's regrowing up there again.
Yeah.
It can't be that he's really dead because the prophecy says that there's 7 years
Of tribulations.
So that's why that episode was so frustrating, because it flew in the face of exactly what we'd been set up with. And so either there's only two ways out of that. Either the prophecy was wrong, which is like, don't give us a prophecy if it's going to be wrong, because it's what put our characters into this whole thing in the first place. Or Moloch's not dead and it was just a fake out, which I hate those. I hate when characters are dead with a fake out.
Or, I mean,
You mean like what happened to Irving?
Yeah.
yeah. You mean that?
You mean that?
Yeah.
You mean
Yeah.
what's probably going to wind up happening with Jeremy?
Well, we didn't see him die. It's just like, it's a theory that he died. So that one is like, okay, he disappeared and anything could have happened.
Yeah.
So him being alive or dead, you didn't show him getting killed. We saw Frank Irving die, and then an episode later, he's not dead.
Yeah. Here's what I will say regarding our new structure of the show, which is let's just handle all the escaped demons from purgatory until we run out of episodes. I think that it is a way of setting up the next season, which will have a large time jump.
I do want to say, to take back a little bit of what I said, Amy Gonzalez points out that they never said it was the Moloch apocalypse. They just said apocalypse.
It could just be straight up Satan. Like Moloch could have just been the little bad.
Yeah.
Satan could be the big bad.
Was he not supposed to be just Satan?
He isn't
No,
Satan.
he isn't Satan.
He's a
Okay.
completely different person. He's a
Yeah.
completely different demon.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not Satan.
What I would like to see is like some other kind of big demon, big bad that we haven't seen before.
I want to see our other two horsemen.
Yes.
I want to see Cthulhu. That'd be pretty cool.
That'd be a twist.
Yeah, it would be a twist.
Cthulhu is actually the big bad.
Yeah, I'd watch the crap out of that. And it just Cthulhu has been subtly pushing people on different parts of this plane, in purgatory, in hell, in heaven, and he's been manipulating us this entire time from across space in another dimension, and he's just gonna rip existence open at the end of season 6, and then it's just gonna be season 7 fighting Cthulhu. That's my personal choice, but I know that won't be the case. I also think we now have our angel friend from last episode
Yes.
as a potential big bad for the end of this season, which is fine. I kind of liked him.
I like him, Orion.
Yeah.
I
He's
liked
interesting.
him.
I
He's
like
interesting.
his viewpoint. It's another like that's the thing. Moloch as a villain, scary, but not...
But very one-dimensional.
Exactly. And sadly, Henry, very, very kind of one-dimensional. Just regardless of all the attempts to paint him as something otherwise, he's a boring, dry villain because he's just making plots to piss off his parents. He just wants to see everything burn. And regardless of his backstory, his goal is not interesting. To bring about the end of the world is so final, it's hard to invest in that journey. Do you know what I mean? So having a guy...
Unless you get something out of it.
Which Orion does.
Yeah.
Which is, I want to remake the Earth so that no evil can exist.
Yeah.
But to do that, I will wipe out millions of innocent people. That's a villain I can get behind.
I mean, that's the classic, like, God is done with the Earth, and he is like, these people are terrible. I might as well scorch the earth and start again.
Over. Yep.
And then we get God, the Devil, and Bob.
Your name is Adam. Adam. God, I hate when they're so young. I mean, I hate when they're so young. They don't even talk. It's going to be a boring couple years.
But you're right. But, like, destroying the earth is, like, not a... Unless we know the reason for it, it's not a great motivation.
No. It's not.
Like, I guess Moloch wants to invade. He wants purgatory. I guess it's like Manifest Destiny.
Yeah.
It's like, we're going to expand into that realm because it's there.
Yeah. Just like Ichabod's like, I'm going to stay married to my wife because she's here. I just... Can we do something interesting, please, Sleepy Hollow?
The other thing is,
please.
I mean, I don't know. I kind of like the addition, the idea that Ichabod is always wearing his clothes, his old-timey clothes. And now that Katrina has moved out of old-timey clothes, I'm like, I feel like it's clothing choices on shows are part of an identity. And so if we're going to have her make these choices to change her clothes, why isn't it like her motivation or her personality or different things about her changing? Because she made a huge jump from wearing her period clothing to wearing modern clothing. It's a huge jump. It's a big thing. And we see Ichabod really struggle with it. So what is happening internally to her that she is not? And that's not coming across on camera. It's
especially considering that she's having more trouble adjusting to society than he is at this moment because he's used to society now.
Yeah, I thought it worked. Her wardrobe worked last week. Because it was like this, like, sort of natural evolution of witch clothing. Like, she still had the corset and, like, long sleeves. And, like, it wasn't... She was wearing pants instead of, like, a big dress. But that's also functional. Whereas men's clothing, like... Yes, there's, like, differences in, like, the neckwear and things. And, like, the jacket's a little bit of a different cut. But ultimately... If I saw that guy walking down the street, I wouldn't think twice about it.
Yeah. Here's the thing, and I think I'm speaking for all Sleepy Hollow fans, but maybe that's just how I am all the time, where I think I'm speaking for all Sleepy Hollow fans. I would like to see the form get broken and more risks get taken.
Yes.
If we had an episode that was entirely from Katrina's perspective, where she really got to save the freaking day, and we also got to really empathize with her, I think that we would buy into that relationship a lot more. If we, like, a risky, different kind of episode. If you're trying to play in the Buffy leagues, if you're trying to play in the Buffy game, you got to step up that Buffy game, and you got to do something interesting with your episode structure and with the kinds of twists you intend to make.
I mean, not to harp on Buffy all the time, but it's like, that's what it was known for. The reason that people know that show so well is because it took all those risks. It had an entire episode where nobody spoke.
Yep.
It had an entire episode without music. It had an episode
with singing and dancing.
Singing
the
and
exact
dancing.
opposite.
It had an episode where reality got rewritten, including the opening title sequence.
Yes.
So that Danny Strong was like the hero of this universe.
Yes. And then which is that? I mean, that's another show where they fudge with perspective, but there's an episode called The Zeppo, which is one of my favorite
which is
Buffy
entirely
episodes,
from Xander's perspective, away from the majority of like what they were fighting and fighting something completely
and the
different.
thing is, a lot of shows do that, especially ensemble shows. Like I've been rewatching House recently, like just House MD, not a crazy sci-fi show by any means, but they'll occasionally do an episode from Lisa Cuddy's perspective or Dr. Wilson's perspective, because getting another character's perspective on your characters is a great way to learn about your characters.
Yes.
And the problem with Sleepy Hollow is like, and that worries me that they're like, oh, well, people don't want to see serialization. It's like they're not, it doesn't sound like they want to take big swings. And the best shows are the ones where you're like, oh, I see what you're setting up. That's going to be a really cool for a few episodes. And oh my God, you destroyed it. That's great TV.
You know what's interesting is they're playing up this idea that, oh, we have to have people tune in every week. But if you do something that creates a buzz, people,
like you did last season,
not they did, but like, and I know this is cable, but Breaking Bad, it was like Breaking Bad took a while to pick onto, but once it got a buzz, it was unstoppable because it was different. And that's how season 1 was of this show, because people were like, whoa, you did things that we haven't seen, or we haven't seen in a while. And now it's like, okay, now that we have the audience, you're trying to keep them by not doing anything. And it's like, you can't do that as a TV show. People aren't going to stay and reward you for doing nothing.
Yeah, it needs to progress. It needs to move forward. I think what I want to see is I want to see Headless as a more central villain, where they didn't just stumble upon a painting. As good as this episode was, I don't want them to have stumbled upon a painting. I want Headless to have planted that painting, to have sent a minion to plant it in an attempt to get at them.
Yes.
That's what I think the show needs to be. It needs to be the thing where like we have all these little pieces moving, and maybe we're going there. Maybe they're going to surprise me at the end of the season that all these pieces have been orchestrated by Headless. But if it's not that, I'm going to be frustrated, and it's going to feel cheap and slow.
It's not that. I'm sorry, buddy. It's just not going to be.
I still do like the idea, though, of being entrapped in a painting. It was very visually interesting. It was, like, thematically interesting.
I love the Hangman. There was a lot of good stuff this week. It's just the show that is disappointing.
Well, it's like we went last year, and again, like in the article I was reading, they were like, well, last year was less serialized. I don't know if we were all not watching the same show, but last year was very serialized. It's this year that's kind of gotten away from that.
Being serialized does not mean you can't have monsters that last one episode. It's just about the plot lines that follow around it.
Right.
Like, that's what a good...
And it was, the continual discovery of their roles as witnesses and the plot to bring about the Horsemen of War, laying in elements that then all coalesced in a stunning finale. And just 13 episodes. Never go beyond 13 episodes.
If you can't handle it, don't do it.
It's Sleepy Hollow. Like, look at the image that's sitting behind us. And if you're listening, it's an image. It's the Sleepy Hollow logo, where the O in Hollow, the second one, has been replaced with Headless's head, which is missing. There's a big O. That's what the Legend of Sleepy Hollow is about. The Headless Horseman. And I know that it doesn't have to be all about him, but he is what I tune in for.
Yeah.
I want more axes being swung. I want more heads being chopped off.
All right, since we've been doing predictions this whole time, and that's effectively like a want. Jackie, anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
No, I think I'm echoing the things you guys are saying. I want it to be serialized. I like finding, and I want to have more flashbacks where we find nuggets of the past that makes sense with the present in a way that it ties into the greater narrative.
I agree. All right, folks, I want to thank you so much for joining us this week on the Sleepy Hollow After Show. The show will return with the next all-new episode, I believe, next week.
And we're getting a special guest at the end of the season.
A special guest at the end of the season who... can we announce it yet? I think we could.
I don't see we're not.
Booked, right?
She's booked. It's confirmed. Lindy Greenwood, who plays Jenny Mills, will be on this show at the end of the season.
February 17th. Mark your calendars.
Mark your calendars is very exciting. I got a lot of tweets this week asking where I was last week, and I just wanted to clear things up while I'm here. Unfortunately, due to my increasingly crazy schedule, I'm not able to do this show consistently, and I've chosen to back out. And I'm sorry that I didn't tell anyone ahead of time, that I didn't tell the audience. You guys are amazing, and you've been amazing watching or listening to this show forever. And everyone else, all the folks on this panel, Jackie and Zach and Steve, are amazing, and they're going to continue to give you amazing coverage of this show, and I will try to pop in from time to time. Jackie, where can the people find you?
At 123Jackie_B on Twitter, at 123JackieB, all one word on Instagram. Jackie is JACQUE.
And you guys can follow me on Twitter at @ZachWilson, ThatZachWilson. Bunch of shows here at AfterBuzz. Grimm, Helix with Mr. Matt Lieberman over there. Bunch more coming up. Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Yeah, and please continue to treat them with the utmost respect and love that I know that you have, sleepyheads. You can find me on Twitter at Matt Lieberman, MattLieberman, here on AfterBuzz TV, talking about Helix, Banshee, and the upcoming Better Call Saul. You can find my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Matthew D. Lieberman, SourceFed and SourceFed Nerd. Thank you all so much for joining us. Back next week. Good night.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Good night, sleepyheads.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.